90% of the time, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
It's not. It's
Gets
gross.
the people going.
You are now listening to Diagnonsense
Then we would just be idiots saying nonsense.
with Kurt Honack
Damn it.
and Isaac Smolden.
I am also here.
You've played this game?
Yeah, a little bit.
Is that sarcasm? Have you played this game a lot of bit?
Yeah.
I've played this game 0 bit before watching the show.
There's a Jim Carrey meme I had on my feed yesterday that was like, he's been, I think it's a scene from Ace Ventura when he's like, I've been waiting for this moment, like the moment when people ask you about the Fallout lore. No, I'm not that. I'm not like. I didn't need to know every single detail, but I did enjoy. Yeah, I played it a lot in my teens. So,
Not me.
not you.
Just not cultured enough, I guess. Can't handle the inventory management. It's too complicated.
You're like,
it stresses me out.
Do I want a stapler or do I want paper clips?
I don't know what either of them do.
You're being shot at. You're like,
I don't see how that's applicable to real life.
it's not.
Take cover.
Duct tape or a stapler. Oh my god. Just like
Listen, you're supposed to be playing video games to relax, and that's not.
that's stressful.
That is
well,
too
so the
stressful for
game
me.
does pause when you're managing your inventory.
Oh.
So, you know.
So maybe I haven't
not
given
real-
it enough of a shot.
It's not Tarkov or like PUBG where you're like energy drink 7.62 ammo.
Well, I will say, after watching this, I may be a little more likely to give it a try. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Diagnonsense. I'm Isaac. I'm joined by Kurt Honack. Kurt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a little dreary, but that's okay.
Yeah, our weather was so nice, and
That's
now it's
okay.
not. But
I'd
that's all right.
rather
It really
not.
puts you in the mood for watching all of Fallout, the new TV show on Amazon Prime. Not a sponsor, but you could be if you wanted to, Amazon. I will take some Daddy Bezos money. Give me a call, 907-373-4357. As we just touched on, Kurt, I did not play the Fallout video games growing up, which is sacrilege to, I think, a lot in the video game internet community because these games are insanely popular. I did get a little bit of the lore drip. The one Fallout game I did play, the little one where you get to manage all the vault dwellers on the iPad and
Yeah.
you build your little vault. That is the only Fallout game that I played. But you don't really get a sense of like the fact that you're actually the evil corporation. Spoilers. You're the evil corporation in the little mobile game. So I knew that the twist was coming, but still very interesting. Before we get into the show, how, as someone who has played a lot of Fallout, how accurate is this to the video games?
I felt like it was pretty accurate. Just not, like I said, I'm not like a super fan. I mean, I enjoyed the games, but I thought it was. I didn't see anything. I don't remember anything that was like, this is like a glaring contradiction to the games. You know what I mean?
Well, as someone who reads a lot of books and plays a lot of video games and then ends up having to give the shows of said books or video games that I grew up playing a chance, shout out Halo, or rather not shout out to the Halo TV show, which, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't exist. It was nice to see an adaptation that it seemed like a lot of people that were fans of the IP were big fans of, that also was just a decent television show.
Yeah.
In my mind. So I watched this a little bit ago. I had binged it originally a couple months ago, and then you just went through it, and we have two different perspectives coming from someone who grew up with the IP versus myself.
Yeah.
8 episodes. This is not quite as violent as The Boys, so not the most violent show we've ever talked about.
Yeah.
Still more gratuitous than some other stuff.
Still the nuclear wasteland. Yeah.
It is so Fallout is set in post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland after after the Earth has been bombed to oblivion in 2077 or something. So this is like 100 It's like 100
cyberpunk.
Yeah.
No,
It's supposed to be like 100 years into the future, basically, right?
Yeah. But it's an alternative timeline. So I
right.
think it's something like they didn't have like I think civilians didn't really have the transistor technology for like computers like we do, so they never got smartphones or anything. The military, I think, kind of like
they do have like
kept
little
all that
smartphones
tech
on there. They have the Pip-Boys
right,
on their
but that's
arm.
like due to Vault Tech, I think, and so it's like. But they never had like widespread civilian adaptation of like computers. I think it was kind of Vault Tech kind of kept like a monopoly on the tech. So, but that's more, we can go into that later.
And it's very, the aesthetics are very like 1970s, 1960s.
Yeah, one of the
50s.
themes is like if the 50s we had a split timeline, but that culture never changed or evolved, I guess.
Right. So there's our three main characters. You have Lucy, who is a vault dweller and grows up in like this ideal, like very much that like 50s idealistic American society, except they're in a vault underground. So they just have a projector playing like an image of a cornfield in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, things immediately go wrong at the start of the show and she ends up having to wander through the wasteland. And so there's a lot of themes of her naivete kind of being challenged and her inner, she's raised in like this Americana society where she's like, everyone should just love each other and get along and we all help each other. And then everyone in the wasteland is just like the worst people you've ever met in your entire life.
She's the full tarot. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Then you've got Maximus, who is a member of the Brotherhood of Steel, which is basically just that. I can't believe we're going back to this, but it's basically just the Space Marines from Warhammer, but in a post-apocalyptic wasteland setting.
Yeah,
is that an accurate
it is
description?
An exoskeleton. There's biopunk elements for sure. Yeah.
So he is essentially he's just a incel that has a suit of power armor, where. He's around. There's all these super aggro dudes, and he's like, "Yeah, death to the."
I think that the paradigm between incel and post-apocalyptic is a little different. But yeah, essentially,
he's never like seen a woman. He's just around all these super aggro dudes that are like, the most important thing is killing people and being a man, and he's like, hell yeah. And then the first
he's indoctrinated for sure. He's in a
and then
cult,
the first woman he meets, he's like, whoa,
how to woman.
Yeah, there's this whole journey of him going from an internet incel to like an actual good person, because you can kind of see that like underneath the super like aggro manly man stuff, he's like actually super, insecure in his own like his place with these people that he's grown up with.
In that sense, yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think that Maximus has, I don't know if he's my favorite character out of this show, but I think that his character arc is maybe my favorite out of
He's
this.
got some redeeming qualities, because he's kind of a fool too when he like, enters these situations, and he's trying to like be like
he's trying to be an alpha male. Well, he's trying to be the liver king.
He wasn't set up to be successful in the sense that like, there's only so much you can plan for in the apocalyptic wasteland. Right. But yeah,
I think that his character arc is really relevant for today. I think that he like, I use the incel analogy as a joke, but like it reminds me of someone that grows up in this internet community where like he's basically been going to the Church of Andrew Tate for all of his life, and now he gets out into the real world for like 3 days, and he's like, oh man, I think that the people that I've taken like my marching orders from for my entire life might actually be dumb and wrong.
They might have a flawed.
They might have some flaws.
That is a theme throughout the Fallout, though, is like these cults that kind of develop because all of the society is fractured, so there's not like some overarching like culture or theme or like that like binds everyone together. So yeah.
The other, I'd say there's three main characters. There's Lucy, there's Maximus, and you follow their story a lot, but then you're also following the Ghoul, who is Cooper Howard, former movie star, and he's been alive since before the bombs were dropped. And now he wanders the wasteland, and he needs his ghoul juice inhaler or he dies. but he just wanders around just wasting people.
Yeah.
But he's got a really tragic backstory as well. He's kind of like he's the last remnant of this, like the last surviving member from this culture before you really see humanity break down over the course of this show, because they flash back to before, right? Yeah. And you can see it does a really good job of, even though I knew, we've already put the spoiler tag up well before this, but kind of unlike Atlas Shrugged, which is a story about how the government stops all of our heroes of the titans of industry from being able to save America with their genius and their economics. Fallout instead says this is what happens when you allow one corporation to buy up all these smaller corporations until they control every aspect of American society, including the government.
Corporate monopoly.
And what happens as a result of that. So the vaults are made by Vault-Tec. I'm going to try to break this down as best I can as someone who'd never played the games, right? The vaults are made by Vault-Tec, and they all have weird, different experiments that are going on. So like Lucy's vault, the experiment is, what if that's the greatest mystery, right? Is it's interesting how the people that end up winning the election, becoming leaders of her vault, are all transfers from this other vault, right? And there's another vault where it's supposed to be a society completely run by scientists, or in the games there's a ton of different experiments, right? And most of them go wrong in spectacular, horrifying ways.
It's Vault-Tec doing social engineering. So they're kind of the shadow government that runs the US. And it's interesting that you drew a parallel between Ayn Rand there, because I think they were trying to go, okay, what if the meritocracy ends up in this monopoly of corporate power,
Well, and two, to draw another internet parallel, it's Vault-Tec is kind of like if all of these social experiment YouTubers had billions upon trillions of dollars, and then Mr. Beast just set up a bunch of vaults that have insane premises, but it's actual people fighting for their actual survival instead of like a new Tesla or something like that. So it's that idea of like, oh, let's see this cool social human behavior experiment, but if the people in charge of it had unlimited resources and ultimate power. And that's on top of everything on the surface being a mess, and kind of seeing how humanity fights and struggles and claws to like survive with the giant mutant cockroaches that are wandering the wasteland and all that.
It's a story of capitalism run amok, where they needed plausible deniability to do all these social experiments so that they didn't have to have any responsibility for the outcomes of any of these social experiments, but they could reap all the financial benefits. That is definitely the overarching thing. I was glad to see, even though I knew that Vault-Tec is supposed to be the bad guys, there was a lot of really good mystery elements, and I almost don't even think we really need to spoil them here. I think you should go watch the show if this world sounds interesting to you. But there's a lot of really interesting mystery elements that come with the show, for sure.
That you unpack bit by bit, episode by episode. A lot of times in a show, the flashback is the worst part. I.e. the Acolyte. The flashback episode has been the worst episode of the Acolyte. But in this one, I could not wait for them to I just wanted to see a whole show that was a prequel to this show that just had Cooper like becoming, he's this movie star, and he plays this cowboy, like this picture of old America, and then he goes to these fancy parties and everyone's like, Cooper, yes, join our billionaire autocracy, please. You're so wonderful. We're going to keep your family safe when we blow up the entire world. We love you, Cooper. And he's just like, he's just this dude. People. He's just this, he's an old soul living in a new time, right? Yeah. And that's another good, the character arcs for these three main characters are so good. I love Maximus's character arc as someone who has been brainwashed by the Alpha and Sigma male society.
Indoctrinated, yeah.
I love Cooper as kind of this man out of time where he just wants everything to be simple. He wants to believe that there's good in people, and then you see him through the flashbacks and then in the Wasteland become corrupted into this person that has like debased himself, lowered himself to kind of just a survivor, right? That's willing to do whatever it takes. And then Lucy kind of has the opposite character arc where she is kind of mirrors Cooper, where she wants to see, she only sees the good in people. She's really naive, which ends up landing her in a bunch of trouble. And you see her trying to fight becoming corrupted, trying to fight that base level instinct. She does and she doesn't by the end of the show.
Yeah,
right?
She's definitely a transformed person.
She's a transformed person, but she's not willing to sacrifice some of those elements of her, who she is
Humanity.
morally, right?
Yeah.
And you see her kind of not save, but
Kind of
affect
saves
the
herself.
and some of the other characters around her too. She kind of in some ways refuses to revert to that base level of humanity.
Yeah.
Although she does lose, I think, a part of herself on the way, and I think her story in the next season will have we'll see that character arc continue, or I would hope that we see that character arc continue. What's a favorite? There's so many really funny parallels to like internet culture, modern society. What stands out to you as maybe your favorite one of those, or your favorite kind of small Easter egg to a real life occurrence?
I don't know how appropriate this is, but so in the games, though, there are drugs all over the place, and it's part of that is because the pharmaceutical companies have been pushing an insane amount of drugs. And
the ghouls need the drugs to survive as well.
So they have like these drug cocktails, and so the game, they have like a bunch of slang in the game and your character can become addicted in the game. So I mean, it's really, but it's like, so when I was playing Fallout, right, like that's kind of towards the start of the opioid epidemic, and that would really kind of struck me, because it was like, you're going to like all the manufacturing of all these drugs, and like so the populations, not only are they on the brink of nuclear war, but everybody's like on some kind of drug, and the all these companies are manufacturing all these weapons, and it's like, oh my God, where are the boundaries? Because it does become that kind of like Ayn Rand, like, okay, so if we have individuals and they, we have a meritocracy, and these private companies can like pull people out, pull the poor out, but like where are the boundaries in terms of like how far where does the science end? And that's one of them. But I think in general, so there's more cosmic horror, and I think in the games there, so that's one major difference, is that like I think in the games, when you go to these cities and you just find like they have a scene where I think it's Lucy finds like a family that's just been like they've taken poison, which was also manufactured by
Vault-Tec, right?
Yeah, by one of these companies, and they're like in their living room as skeletons. And there's a lot of that though in the games, where in the atmosphere of the games is much more lonely. So like when you're going through the Wasteland, you're like finding these like horrific scenes, and it's kind of like this happened a long time ago, but it almost feels a little more haunted in the games when you're playing it. It feels more eerie. So there's that, but there's also Lovecraft, cosmic horror, it's very cosmic horror in some of the influences. So those parallels are well, not parallels to real life, but
parallels to pop culture.
Yeah, pop culture.
I think my favorite, mine's a little bit shorter, but when they get into Vault, I think it's 31, right? The Lucy's brother kind of discovers the truth, right? And one of the characters is this brain in a little Roomba, right?
Yeah.
Where he's the Roomba brain, and he's like, he's just been controlling everything behind the scenes, and he's like, I've improved my humanity. I now live forever as this Roomba brain, and he gets like stuck on a little lip of the door, and it made me think of when we talk about AI, when we talk about kind of this next wave of technology, we're gonna you're a big cyberpunk guy, so we're gonna be replacing our hands with robot hands, and we're becoming greater than humanity. But sometimes the unintended consequences of that is when you think that you've achieved immortality by turning yourself into a Roomba brain, and then like you have the smallest, easiest thing for the a normal person, a lesser than you, to be able to conquer is this little
immortality comes at a price.
Doorstop. right. As we improve, and it's not just people. I think as our technology improves, as we move towards cell phones and the internet, and we're in this golden digital age. Sometimes the simplest things are all of a sudden difficult because we think things have become so easy, or things have become obsolete, that when something goes wrong with your digital tech and you're like, oh crap, I now can't do this basic task that I used to be able to do before we ascended to this higher plane, right? So that was my favorite part. This show is not over. I think I'm sure they've already confirmed season 2, but it very much ends in a spot where I think the next show or the next season is teased, and there's a lot of room for them to continue. What are your overall thoughts on this? I think that if you're someone that doesn't mind a little bit, I wouldn't say it was too gratuitous compared to some shows. Again, I'll reference The Boys. It's not quite to that level of just pure violence. Definitely not for younger audiences, and not. I would recommend it not to Linda. It's not a Linda show.
It's probably not to the anxiety prone.
It's maybe a Julia show, or a Michelle show. Yeah. Linda is just, I can't imagine her watching a show where people's arms get blown off by explosive bullets. She's just too pure of heart. But maybe for the more corrupted among us that enjoy a little bit of the violence, or can stomach it. I think there's a lot of really great messages in it, and I think the characters are the strongest part of this show for me.
Yeah, Fallout has an odd kind of optimism. If you're in a good playthrough, I don't know about if you're in a bad playthrough. if you're playing, because you can choose in the games, you can be more bad or good, right? But I thought overall for a game to TV adaptation, it wasn't bad.
I think it's maybe one of the best that I've seen.
Yeah, I didn't think it was. I came into it expecting more kind of rough production, and I thought the production was great. And it isn't like I said, the atmosphere is different than the games, but it does touch on a lot of the same themes, and it still leaves room for those elements. So I thought it was a pretty good adaptation, and I think my favorite character was probably Cooper, because he kind of comes back to haunt the future as this symbolic
specter of
devil.
The past.
Yeah, he's like a vampire, dude. The dude just lives through the whole apocalypse, and then he's like, morality is going to catch up with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure of it. So I kind of love his character arc. But yeah, that's a theme throughout the series, is or cryogenics, which turned into a disaster in the 50s, but it's floating all these ideas, right? That are what if we could, with technology, and then disaster.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. Fallout Season 1, Amazon Prime. Again, not a sponsor, but we will take your money if you want us to be a sponsor, or if you want to sponsor us. Please give us money. We'll talk about whatever show's on your platform.
Vault Tech fund us. No,
Vault. I mean, maybe we need to rewatch the show because we might have not learned our lesson.
Yeah.
For the Amazon
Right.
sponsorship.
Right.
Is Amazon might be the closest thing we have to Vault Tech. You do get,
Yeah.
you can get any product you need from them.
Yeah.
And they do. They're now a global entity.
Umbrella Corporation.
Right. They've bought up all these.
No, not quite Umbrella, but that's a different one.
It's
But
like a
I
whole
won't
nother
mention.
episode.
I won't mention the conglomerate.
It's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Whole nother episode.